Grave than their misrepresentation of the preceding verse was the inadequacy of their attempts to interpret the other blessed verse, which indicates that the sun moves about its own center and axis. He had said, and the sun moves in a fixed place of its own. That's a verse from Quran. Their minds were baffled, their souls perplexed, and their faculties unequal to the task of perceiving its meanings, for they wished to make it conform to the rules of Ptolemy mentioned above, and to harmonize it with the almanac which he had drawn up. They were not, however, able to reconcile the two texts, and for this reason had to have recourse to implausible explanations, such as the claim advanced by some that the words "in a fixed place of its own" where originally it has no fixed place. So they made the sun that's supposed to be not moving in relation to Earth. It was opposite. They interpreted it in the opposite way, that no, there is no fixed place for sun. That means it is moving. So it revolves around the sun. The word "in" having become mistakenly confused with the word for "no" in the Arabic text, or the claim made by others that by fixed place is meant the day of judgment, at which time the sun will cease from its orbiting and motion. This despite the fact that it is plainly stated in this verse that the sun's motion is about its own axis and center. Know then that those mathematical questions which have stood the test of scrutiny, and about the soundness of which there is no doubt, are those that are supported by incontrovertible and logically binding proofs, and by the rules of geometry as applied to astronomy, that are based on observations of the stars and careful astronomical research, and are in conformity with the principles of this is the most important, conformity with the principles of the universal themes expounded in the divine sciences. This reminds me of the 4 categories of gaining knowledge, which was through the senses, through our mind, our rational mind, through the reading of and interpreting of the scriptures, the religious scriptures, and the last one was through the inspiration of the heart, intuitive knowledge. So all of these 4 put together without eliminating anyone, simultaneously referring to these 4 methods, as Abdul-Baha attested himself, that we come up with a perfect proof that we don't have to doubt about. I think the main part of it is the correct interpretation, although we're going to use our mind, which is limited. But let's say in this faith right here, we see examples of the correct interpretation, understanding of some of these verses. And once we utilize and put them to correct use in order to understand the greater model, then we can end up in the right. So, which means that our rational faculty, without the help and the confirmation of the divine sciences which are found in the religious scriptures, and we are mainly talking about, the ones that are questionable in a way, not that it's been meddled with, but historically speaking, is the Old Testament and New Testament. But the ones that they have been confirmed by the manifestation of God, which came after Muhammad, that Quran is 100% the word of God. And then what's even more important is that in this dispensation we have the manifestation himself affirming what has been written and how to interpret those verses in the previous scriptures. For it is by applying the outward, this is important, check this out, this is quite deep. For it is by applying the for it is by applying the outward world to the inner, the high to the low, the small to the large. Now, the smaller to large means you find something in a limited, relatively speaking, to a finite, in a finite environment or situation or condition, and then you extrapolate the same truth that you discovered into the general, going in other words, you go from particular to universal. Then he says the general to the particular, the other way around now. Although the small to large it seems like he's looking at it in a different way. He says from a smaller entity to a larger one. So let's say from microscopic into the cosmological. The general to the particular. From general, universal, you also infer, deduce a conclusion that the same principle is also used in the particular that was found in the general. That with abundant clearness it becometh apparent that the new rules arrived at by the science of astronomy are in closer accord with the universal divine principles than the other erroneous theories and propositions, as we have explained and illustrated. The observations of Copernicus and his almanac have been more accurately compiled and more thoroughly and carefully researched than the other almanacs. living at the turn of the 15th century AD, he pursued his astronomical observations for a period of 36 years before publicly announcing the now famous system of laws that were the fruit of his studies. And were it not for our wish to be brief and concise, we would have explained for thee the details of the system and summarized its repercussions. So if he had time, he would go into details, explain exactly. But I guess we were locked out. The guidance we have given on this subject, however, is sufficient for those with a seeing eye and clear insight. Say, exalted be the self-subsisting King, by whose manifestation the veil of fancy had been torn asunder, by which the sincere ones have dispensed with all else but him, through love for his manifest beauty. Oh, check this out. A beauty. What beauty? What is the meaning of that? A beauty that revealeth the realities of things seen and unseen, and exposeth the fanciful misconceptions and erroneous beliefs in the sciences. What is this? Truth. Truth reveals the reality of things and also exposes the erroneous beliefs in the sciences. Truth is the foundation by which those that long to behold his face, the face of truth, have become apprised of the hidden secret, the concealed and treasured symbol by which they have soared on the wings of penetrating vision to the apex of reunion, the wellspring of happiness and the station of blissful contentment, heard the sweet melodies of the birds on the boughs of the forests of revelation, bathed at the pure spring, drunk from the ocean of life in the world of light, and become intoxicated from the cup tempered at the camphor fountain in this manifest and resplendent day, calling on their Lord in soul entrancing accents, the like of which ear hath not heard amidst the gardens and meadows of paradise, saying, I call upon thee, O my God and my beloved, with the tongue of my inmost spirit, with my face set towards the day spring of thy unity and the dawning place of the sun of thy sublime oneness, sweetening my breath with praise of thee and thanks to the center of thy divine mercy for having created me. Center of thy divine mercy for having created me, undeserving as I am, by thy heavenly favor in this majestic cycle and unique manifestation. For this is the day which thou hast singled out from amongst all ages for the dawning of the sun of thy truth, whose brilliant rays illumine all the horizons, the day in which thou hast showered both thy grace, made perfect thy proof, and fulfilled thy testimony, the day in which thou hast perfected thy bestowals and bounties unto such of thy creatures as are wholly devoted unto thee. Verily, thou hast honored them by attainment to that they, for which the chosen ones of God in the remoteness of their separation would have sacrificed their spirits, yearning to inhale a single breath of the fragrances spread abroad in such a day, and longing to behold traces of the lights that shine forth above its heaven. The last paragraph. Thou in truth hast crowned me through thy gracious favor in the midmost heart of creation with this luminous diadem, and seated me upon the throne of thy love amidst all of the peoples of the earth. And thou hast aided me to remain steadfast in thy cause, through which the mightiest powers amongst the concourse of thy creation were made to shake and tremble, and the foundations of all things in the realms of invention and creation to quake. I ask thee, O King of the seen and the unseen, by thine ancient beauty, ancient truth, and the radiance of thy holy countenance and wondrous being, to preserve us from vain imaginings, conceptualization of something that cannot be thought of, and evil whisperings. Based on those conceptualization, we think of a completely different model that is incorrect. We are not even capable of coming up with a model, because our finite beings cannot encompass an infinite reality. And we're not willing to even listen when that finite reality tries to explain this model to us. To preserve us from vain imaginings and evil whisperings, and to assist us to be persevering and constant, firm and unwavering in thy cause. Thou verily art the great giver, the all-bountiful, the most compassionate. And that is the conclusion of the Tablet of the Universe. It did not seem, and this is very, very strange, it did not seem, or let's say the thought of it, what I thought of this, which I have visited probably a few years ago, I thought it was more revealing in certain facts about the cosmology, about our universe, this physical reality. Somehow, I was thinking it contains more, which shows that a lot of times what I thought I saw, what I thought I did, what I thought I understood, turns out to be incorrect. Because our mind is very limited, and it could easily be a straight and create and concoct an alternate reality that we feel more comfortable in. Because our mind is a very good servant and a very lousy master.